I'd like to tell you what started me on the galaxy model for the atom and what happened to me in the early 1980s. In 1983, when I was in my early 30s, and we were just single guys, and what I liked to do that back then was go to the bar and we'd put our name up on the pool table chalkboard, and then when it was our turn, and we'd play, and you'd play for a beer, and if you kept winning and winning, you'd get more and more beer, and you wouldn't have to pay for any beer. And then when the pool dried up later, we'd go check out the various live acts, the nightclubs around town, and see what was good to hear, and that would be our Friday or our Saturday night. We'd just play pool and then go to the club and enjoy the entertainment, see the people. And so I had been doing that one night, and we came home. Generally, we'd come home. Sometimes if the club was good, we'd come home at 2:00, 2:30 in the morning. And this was one of those nights we came home about 2:30 in the morning. And my friend's house was right on the river, and looking out across the road right on the river. And so we had the curtains are open, and his turntable was right in front of the window, and we put on the Kinks, Misfits by the Kinks, and we put that on the record player and sat down on the couch, and I sat back and I closed my eyes and was kind of relaxing, listening to the music start up. And I had a really weird thought that was so weird, I can't even remember what it was. It was just so weird that I thought to myself, that can't have been my thought because it was so weird. And as soon as I thought that, there was like a reply from kind of on the one side of me. It kind of, I had my eyes closed, but it seemed like it got kind of brighter on the one side of me. And then this thought replied that no, it wasn't my thought. It was their thought. And then there was another thought from the other side of me. It got kind of a little bit brighter on that side, and the thought on that side said that they would like me to do a survey, and it was all totally voluntary, and I would just have to answer a bunch of questions, and anytime I felt uncomfortable at all, I could just open my eyes and I'd be out of the experience. And so right away, I opened my eyes, and I was sitting there on the couch. The drapes are open. Misfits is just starting to play. It's like maybe a third of the way through the first song. And I'm like, okay, so I close my eyes again. And this experience is still there, and what these there's one on each side of me, and they're telling me that if I take this survey, it's totally voluntary, and at the end I can ask my own questions, and anytime I want to get out of it, all I have to do is open my eyes to get out of it. And it's totally voluntary. And so they talked me into it, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. So they're like, no, first you have to practice a little bit of telepathy. There's another way of doing telepathy. And it's like a thought bubble. And you're in your mind and it's all black. And then there's this little point of light coming towards you. And as it gets bigger, you can see that it's like a transparent bubble. And inside the bubble, it's like there's a three-dimensional holograph going on of some kind of moment in time, some kind of action, some kind of event is happening in this bubble. And it's like a thought. It's like a complete little story in the bubble. And you get to the bubble, and you go into the bubble, and you become part of the action, and you go through it as part of the action, like riding along in it. So they were giving me these thought bubbles, and at first I would go in at the wrong spot, and I'd like miss the first part of it. And then I realized that the thought bubble has a little, it's like got a little indentation. And that's where you go in, and that's the start of the thought bubble. So I got that down. So then the next thing I knew, I was sitting across a big desk from this long-haired, blonde, long-haired guy. Very good looking, greenish, bluish eyes. Kind of a reddish, kind of a goldish complexion. And higher cheekbones. Long blonde hair, darker blonde. And he's like asking me questions telepathically. So I'm getting the question in my mind. And as soon as my mind understands the question and goes to the answer, he was right there with me. And he knows the answer too. So I don't even have to tell him. I just have to comprehend the question. And he knows the answer, if I know the answer, right? So he's giving me all of these answers as fast as thought. Boom, 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 boom. And we're going through this. Boom, 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 boom. And anyway, there was some stuff went on, like there's awkward questions, and at one point I opened my eyes, and the record's only a third of the way done, and it seemed like I'd been in there for hours, man, hours. So I closed my eyes again, and he was just turning back. It was like he had been doing something else while I was gone. And so he was just turning back, and so we completed the whole thing. So then at the end, they're like, well, have you got any questions? And I was like, I was so blown away at that point, I couldn't even think of anything. I was just like totally blown away. But then there's this real sense of urgency inside me. It's like there's like a sense of these urgent questions coming up from inside me, and it was like these science questions. How does gravity work? How does light work? How do atoms work? And I'm like, oh yeah, I like science. I guess those are all good science. Those are good questions to ask. And so those questions just kind of tumbled out of me. It was like it wasn't even me asking them. They just tumbled out of me. So then the long-haired blonde guy, right at the start, he had greeted me and said his name, but I never remember people's names. It's like, boop, boop, they just kind of go past, and I don't remember them at the start. Like, I'm bad about that. But he said his name, and then he said, I'm the commander of the forces of this part of the galaxy. And I'm like, oh, okay, commander of the forces of this part of the galaxy. So then, at the end, these questions tumble out. So then he stands up, and he goes over behind a podium, and he gives me like a 5 to 10 minute answer for each one of my questions. And it was like, the only thing part of it I could really remember is like, it would all be like, well, because atoms are the same as galaxies, then things work this way. And I'd follow for a little while, but I'd get lost right away. And then because galaxies are like atoms, this and this happens, and I'd follow and for a little while, and I get lost, hey, because like the idea that gravity is a push instead of a pull, like right away, it's like you can't, somebody just booms that, throws that at you, and it's hard to grasp. And so all of these concepts he went into in quite detail, but I couldn't follow them. I got the starting point, like, yeah, I saw the relationship. And then he'd like explain it. But I listened anyway, and he did like, I don't know, maybe four mini lectures like that. And then at the end, he's sitting back at the desk again, and he kind of told me that I was going to have a family, and that what I should do in order to cure my various health issues was I should go become a vegetarian, and which I've done. I've been a vegan now since 2000, and yeah, it's definitely, I have no health issues at all now. It just gets better and better. So I gotta admit that he's right about that. So I hadn't told anybody about this for years, like in the 80s and the 90s, early 2000s. I didn't tell anybody, like very few people did I ever tell that story to, because I mean, it's nuts, eh? But then about, I don't know, 8 years ago, I was on Facebook here, and there's this group called the Galactic Council of Lightworkers. And it showed a picture of this guy, the commander of the forces of this part of the galaxy. It showed a picture of him, and it was the same guy, like pretty close. They didn't quite get the cheekbones high enough, and they didn't quite get the skin color, but everything else was like pretty close. And I'm like, yeah, that's the same guy. And they were saying that this was the commander of the forces, right? So I'm like, hey, so it was this Ashtar Sheran. So I'm like, Ashtar Sheran, that's the guy that I had this experience with 30 years before, right? So like I paid attention, like this is the same guy and this is what they're saying. They're saying that what he was saying, right, is the commander of the forces stuff. So this is where I got the idea about galaxies and atoms being the same thing, the same structure. So that's what I've been trying to work on and logically interpret ever since, as you know, in any kind of way I can. But it would be nice to have more of a concerted effort on it. That would be really nice. Anybody that wants to DM me, you know, there's a few things I'd like to try building with some help. Anyway, you guys have a good day.